Hey there, Dr. Craig Hazel here, and today what I want to do is I want to show you how to reduce hip impingement. And for this, what I mean is that the ball joint of the hip can actually become impinged into the socket or the acetabulum of the pelvis. This can happen as a result of excessive amounts of sitting from heavy-duty sports, heavy lifting of weights, exercise, different injuries that can be slips and falls. All of those things can cause the ball joint of the hip to actually get impinged or get compressed into the actual socket of the joint. So what this little exercise regime does is it helps to unimpinge that, helps to open up the hip space. Inside of our hips, inside of our shoulders, inside of most of the joints within our body that are synovial, we have a capsule that wraps around the entire joint, and it's like a protective covering or a bag that holds the synovial fluid in it. That capsule can become quite tight and restricted in terms of movement. When we start to move in improper ways, that capsule starts to become stressed, which then ultimately causes tension on it, and that can ultimately affect the performance of it. So what this little exercise routine is going to do is going to help to open up that hips capsule, and you're going to find that your mobility and your movement is going to really improve quite a bit. So just a quick little test that you can do to actually see how your hip capsule is moving is standing up nice and tall. You're just going to lift your leg up as high as you can. My knee should come up above my hip. If I can only lift my knee up a certain amount, then what's happening is I'm getting too much lack of motion or movement within that hip capsule. So that's going to be our pre-test. Standing up nice and tall, we can lift that knee up. You can see that mine can come up past my hip. I can test my other side. Same thing. I work on these quite often. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little routine of the exercises that you can do to help improve this. So what you need is to get yourself one of these bands. You can get them at Fitness Depot. They're about 12, 14 bucks. They're a hard, tough elastic. They come in different resistances. You can get anywhere from 60 to 100 pounds. You can even get as low as 15 pounds. But this one here is about a 60 to 75 pound resistant. What you're going to do is you're going to mount this to a low-hanging support. Could be a support bar within your house or even a squat rack like I've got here. Even a banister can work. The first exercise that we're going to do is called, it's really the pigeon pose, but we're going to do this in an unimpinged manner with the active assisted band. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step into the band and I'm going to pull tension into that. As I pull tension into it, I want it to be perpendicular to where my hip is. Okay, so you can see as I get into proper position here, I've got the band around my hip as high up into my groin as I can. As I get into that pigeon pose, which is that figure 8 pose, so if you can see that from the side, it would look something like this. Okay, so the band is pulling and distracting out, and I'm starting to get a very deep stretch into that hip capsule. Okay, so that's exercise 1, the pigeon pose with the active assisted band. The second exercise that we're going to do is actually going to be standing up, and for this one, the band is now pulling straight back. I'm going to step forward with my legs, so I've got a straight left leg, got my hands on my right leg, and as I bend forward, I'm going to feel a very deep, intense stretch down the back of my hamstring and into my lower leg. I've got my toes pulled up towards my chin, I've got my back flat, and I'm just bending forward at the hips. What I can do is I can tack and floss, and what that means is I can bend and extend my foot, and I can also bend and dig into the corners so that I can figure out where those tightnesses or that restriction is within that hip capsule. Okay, so that's the second exercise. The third and last one is I'm actually going to do a hip flexor stretch. And for this one, again, I'm going to step into it, but backwards this time. So the strap is going to be right behind the back of my glute here. And I'm going to lean into a nice deep hip flexor stretch. So my leg is back flat on the ground. So I can let you see this a little bit easier. Okay. So my leg is back. And now,
as I stand in this position, I'm squeezing my glute on the same side. I'm keeping my torso nice and straight and tall. As that band pulls forward, it's now starting to create a very deep stretch in the front of the hip and in that hip capsule. For each and every one of these exercises, you want to spend about 1 minute to 2 minutes in each position, okay? After we're done, we're going to stand back up, we're going to come out of the band, and the next thing we want to do is do that post check. So again, standing up nice and tall, I should be able to raise my knee significantly higher. All of these exercises are going to help you remove that hip impingement. It's going to make a world of difference. It's going to help to increase that mobility within the hips. That's going to take a lot of the stress out of your pelvis, out of your low back. It's going to make a massive difference. Give it a try.